Where do you stand on term limits? I noticed our Congressman Murtha has been in now for 30 years.
Yeah, there's no question Congressman Murtha is the poster child for term limits.
Yeah.
That said, I'm against term limits, and here's why. A lot of people, they want to limit the number of terms a congressman can serve, say to 3 terms, which on the surface, sounds like a good idea. Oh, it'll get the Murthas out of there. But the reality is it won't. And it's going to be a long answer to explain, but what would happen with term limits, if you impose term limits, all the power in Congress will gravitate from the elected officials to unelected staffers who will be in the back room playing the puppet master. And so you'll take a guy like Jack Murtha, he'll serve his 3 terms, then he'll move to a chief of staff position for some congressman on the head of some board. And from that position would just play puppet master, because the chief of staff in a congressional office has a lot of power. They become the experts on what meetings the member has to attend, what what legislation, what actually gets written into the bills, and nobody can account for them. And while we've got Jack Murtha, who I think is the prime example where people say, oh, we need to have term limits, where he would have gone was he would have served his 3 terms and then become somebody's chief of staff and just been in the background doing everything he's doing now with no accountability whatsoever to the voter. So by limiting the number of terms your congressman can serve, you're limiting your choice and takes the citizen's choice away in how Congress goes. That said, one other point I want to make. I have to go pull up this list again, but I've got a list of about 17 congressmen whom you've never heard of, who have been in Congress for 25 years or more. But they've never raised, above that level of scandal, and you've never heard of these guys. For the most part, they're probably serving honorably, and there is room for having those, wise legislators, statesmen there. So if you impose term limits, you're going to lose the good with the with the bad.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would agree with that, because I think you could build in safeguards and regulations to prevent that kind of thing from happening. But
you have to amend the Constitution to do it.
Unfortunately, you'd have those people there taking them down.
Yeah.
I mean, look at when you look at as bad as many problems as we have, I think that would invite many more bad problems. Yeah.
Hold the ballot box.
Exactly. And
we have to get people rallied around. What was the last election? 20% voted.
Yes. But before we give more power away from the voter, that's what I believe. And my guarantee to you is that even if we disagree on something, I'll at least look you in the eye and explain my position and why I believe what I believe. 2 questions over here. We'll start with you. Yes, sir.
By the same token, though, we've already had our congressmen and representatives admit that they don't read the bills they vote on anyhow. So the doggone staffers are the people that are advising them anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I mean that occurs, but it's even worse when you have, like say, if you have congressmen who don't have. But because first term, you spend a lot of time. I'm fortunate in that I've worked in a bureaucracy, so I understand the nature of bureaucracies. But like my first tour at the Pentagon, you kind of learn your way around, and you figure out how things are going, and then you move on, you move back out to the field. But the staffers, the permanent government employees who have been there the whole year, they become the knowledge centers. And you see that as you go in and out. And like I say, it's when you take away that voter function and limit the impact of the voters and the length of time the legislators have to learn the system there, you're sacrificing your vote and your control of who's there making the laws and just passing it on to the staffers. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, kind of along those lines, if you're elected, what do you hope to achieve in your first term, and then when do you know it's time to get out for your own personal self?
Well, what do I hope to achieve? One, turn back this health care bill. I want to help Pennsylvania, get the federal government out of Pennsylvania's way so that we can lead the nation to energy independence. 3, of course, we're going to continue to support the troops and keep America safe. But on a philosophical level, every vote I cast will reflect that idea that the role of the federal government is to provide the framework of national security and the framework of law and order, so that everybody can function and live their lives. It's not to interfere and control your life, whether it's healthcare, EPA, its heavy hand, Department of Energy, all those organizations that, you know, if we look at the government, provides a framework of law and order, and I do apologize, I forgot about roads and bridges, you know, federal roads and bridges. It's key, but they get the hell out of the way and let people live their lives. If nothing else, I want to lower that footprint. Now, how effective I'll be, it's going to be dependent on several things. One, being able to work with people on my side of the house as well as people on the other side of the house, but finding those people who are principle-centered. I've had a little bit of experience in a bureaucracy, being able to learn that when you look at a bureaucracy, the way to influence things is being able to find the right buttons to push. Sometimes that can be, most times it's simply knowing the process and learning the process and getting through it and being effective in it. It will depend on, you know, of course, being able to build those coalitions of people who will vote for certain things. You know, whether you're talking gun rights, energy independence, supporting the troops. I think this time around, when we look at the lay of the land on the country, we're going to be able to be very effective because there's a lot of guys who think like me. There's 19 other guys like me running for Congress right now that are, they're calling combat veterans for Congress, that are running this time around, who are like-minded fiscal conservatives, social conservatives, and I think we'll be able to achieve much more. When do I know it's time to leave? There's always a combination in everything. I've kind of lived my life where I've, you know, oftentimes I've judged my, you know, trusted my gut reaction to how I felt about where I stood in my career, what I felt I could achieve, and when you know, when you hit that wall and you realize you're just spinning your wheels, not making a difference, someplace, and you find a new way to make a difference. So that's where it is. As far as becoming entrenched and falling in love with the lifestyle, everything I've seen of Congress, it's a pretty brutal lifestyle. Because you're commuting, you know, you've got to have your home in your home district. You spend this 3 or 4 days every week commuting. It can get pretty exhausting. So, you know, it'll all be measured. You know, with that, you've also got family considerations and all those issues. So, it'll be a judgment call. Yes, sir.
Where do you stand with the lobby and the lobbyists? I mean, my personal opinion is we should illegal it as it was legalized back in Nixon's time. I think it's caused a lot of corruption, a lot of problems with the Senate, the Congress, and even the White House. Where do you stand?
Well, I mean, everybody, you know, you have the quote-unquote legal lobbyists, you know, those who are registered. If you outlaw them, people are going to find another way to try to influence. There's always going to be that question. The biggest thing for me is to maintain my independence, and part of the biggest way in which lobbyists and these groups try to influence a congressman is with money. Now, fortunately, I've got 35,000 donors nationwide, and you know, it's people like you. You are my base. You are the primary lobbyist to me in terms of that. With current laws, you know, it's limited. They're limited in what they can give. But in the end, it comes down to it's a decision on the part of each and every congressman, because no matter what the law says, people who tend to